We're so glad that you're here, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to start by thanking you for your comments and your common sense, because it's right on, right on. And so I really appreciate those comments. And you know, it's not only a national imperative in terms of energy production for our economy and for good jobs and all those things. It really is. It's a national security issue. It's really a strategic global issue now. And along those lines, I want to ask you, Secretary, there's a resource management plan you're putting in place on North Dakota BLM lands. Now, in North Dakota, you've got what's called split estate. It's a checkerboard. Ms. Daniel Davis, you're familiar with this, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate where you've worked with us on this, so I want to thank you for that. But these rules that you're putting out, Secretary, are very problematic because in many cases, the BLM, the federal government, will own the surface acres, but they don't own the mineral acres. So under your resource management plan, because of that, 95% of the federal coal lease acres are taken out of production because of this checkerboard, okay? And those are private individuals, or maybe the state that owns the minerals, in most cases private individuals, and because you own the surface acres and you won't allow leases, you're disenfranchising those individuals. Imagine if you own those minerals and you could lease them and be paid for them, but now the federal government won't let you because you own the surface acres, you're blocking them. That's 95% of the acres on those lands that have federal coal, access to federal coal blocked, and now 45% oil and gas. So your resource plan is disenfranchising all the people that own those mineral acres where you own the surface acres. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's reasonable for the federal government to do that to private individuals?
Senator, with respect to the question, I appreciate that, and I wonder if you wouldn't mind if I pass that question to acting
yeah.
Deputy.
I mean, because the question I have is, what do we do about it?
Yes, indeed.
The federal government is unfairly disenfranchising its own citizens, and that is not fair, and we need to do something about it.
Well, I'll just say thank you, Senator, very much for the question, and have appreciated the many conversations we've had on this and other issues. And with regard to the resource management plan, I'm going to admit I'm not completely steeped in the details, but I understand exactly what you're saying. BLM's responsibility.
Will you work with us on this to address it? This is fundamental fairness. And so I would really appreciate it. And if you would take a lead and work with us on it, I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for raising it. I'd be happy to.
Okay, and then just to add to that, Dakota Gasification Project is the largest carbon capture project in the world now. 50% of their CO2 goes for EOR in the Weyburn oil fields, and 35% now is just coming online. It's going to go for geologic storage, okay? So this is a great example. They are out there in the area that I'm talking about. If you cut off their coal supply, here's this huge carbon capture project like the chairman was just talking about. Here's how we're going to provide base load electricity, for not only for the grid as well as natural gas and so forth and oil that we need. Also, Project Tundra, DOE, Department of Energy, just awarded $350 million for Minn Kota to do the same thing with their coal-fired electric plant. Again, stability of the grid. They need access to these mineral acres owned by individuals, okay? They're not even your acres, okay? Mm-hmm. And so we've got to address this. The second thing I want to bring up is just what the chairman was talking about, the conservation lease program under the federal law. The Federal Lands Management Act of 1976 requires multiple use on these federal lands. And once you put those easements in place on millions and millions of acres, that won't be multiple use. That contravenes the law, does it not?
Senator, the land in question, BLM lands, will still be used for, they will be multi-purpose still. The existing leases will not be jeopardized in any way. Grazing permits, people will still be able to use the land for a multi-use purpose.
Not on the lands that you restrict with those easements. You are taking them out of multiple use in contravention of the law.
would you like to add? Would you mind if Laura Daniel Davis worked on this?
Please.
Senator, I just wanted to provide a short clarification. The mitigation and restoration leases will be time-bound, and they'll be specific to activity. In the case of mitigation, probably tied to a project proponent, and in the case of restoration, a specific restoration objective. So they're not unbounded by time, and they will be specific to the work that is meant to be done.
But
so I just wanted to be sure.
But as to those lands, they no longer will be multiple use.
I think that I don't expect that they would be limiting in terms of recreation. I suspect even in the case of grazing leases that they may wish to also have a restoration lease potentially. So I don't think they're being taken out of multiple use, and certainly not for all time, sir.
I see I'm over my time, Mr. Chair. This is one that we'll end up litigating clearly based on the law. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, in 2022, Congress finally passed